Welcome to Insight. On the program this week, we shall be looking at after the postponement of the election, the presidential and National Assembly elections by the Independent National Electoral Commission. What next? Matters arising. There are logistic issues, legal issues. Some of the positions INEC has taken, is it backed up by the Electoral Act? If it is backed up, are there still issues that need to be checked? Maybe a review of the Electoral Act. And on media review,
we shall still take it up still on the postponed election, or generally talking about elections. While political parties and electorates were warming up to hit the polls, journalists, also local and international, they were also on standby to update us with blow-by-blow accounts of what is happening in polling units and in other centers. And so this postponement caused a whole lot of drama in many circles. Anyhow, on media review, we shall take a look at the coverage of elections generally, starting from this one and a wider picture on how elections are being covered by journalists and other observers.
It would really be insightful. Up next on the program is the discussion segment. It was an initial problem, but the electoral umpire in Nigeria eventually calmed the nerves when stakeholders in Nigeria were addressed regarding the postponement of the presidential and National Assembly elections in Nigeria. A lot of arguments for and against have been sustained, despite the explanation and apologies offered by the electoral umpire, talking about the Independent National Electoral Commission. A lot are satisfied, a lot are not satisfied. We'll sustain that argument, but from a different perspective here. I have to do this, Susan Henshaw. Susan Henshaw is an attorney and non-profit professional. Thanks for joining me on Insight.
Thanks for having me.
Johannes Toby Wojola, lawyer and dispute resolution specialist. Thanks for joining me on
Pleasure
Insight.
is mine. Pleasure is mine.
Well, INEC says they tied their challenge for shifting the elections by 1 week to logistic problems and other problems. But let me come from this perspective. The law says campaigns begin 90 days before elections, and 24 hours before elections, campaigns should stop. What happens? Is the law covered by the postponement of election? Now the elections have been postponed. What happens to the 1 week extension? Does the law cover that? Does it still remain within the 24 hours? Let's sustain this.
I think first and foremost, it's a very dicey thing. And it's going to be open to so many interpretations. For one, I would look at it also from the perspective that it says 90 days political parties may commence official public campaigns 90 days before the polling day, of which 24 hours before the polling day, that 90-day campaign period is to end. My thinking is that the law wants to give 90 days to political parties to campaign. And the drafters of this law believe that 90 days is sufficient period to have the political parties engage with the electorates, sell their manifestos, and ask people to vote for them. Now here comes a 7 days extension, which now makes it 97 days. Would 97 days not then be a breach of the law? It seems to me to be so. But then, the thinking of the law is such that campaign should stop 24 hours before the polling day.
Okay.
And the mind of the drafter would possibly be voters will still have a clear memory a clear picture of the parties and the manifestos. And so they have only 24 hours and they don't forget who they would want to vote. And then the next day is the polling day. So now you're leaving voters with 7 days with nothing exciting in the political realm. If we were to go by this more or less strict literal interpretation of Section 99, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act, I think there is some form of a bit of a vacuum there. And though I still believe that the intention of the drafters is 90 days before the elections, and not 97
Let me leave it there.
But I think I should add this, and it's important that regardless of the stance that 90 days it is, cast in stone, whether it is agreed or not agreed by the parties involved, political groups, independent bodies, persons of interest who believe in the candidature of anybody.
Now, when this question was posed to INEC chairman, he just dismissed it and said, the Electoral Act is clear. But before then, let me take the perspective of Susan. What's your perspective on this? Because it's a fundamental issue that needs to be looked at.
Yeah. Now, the section of the Constitution which is cited, which is 99 sub 1, is very clear. You know, like the INEC chairman said, it's very clear. Let's not read anything into the law that's not there. You know, there are certain times when that can happen, but you know, in this case, there's no reason to add or subtract from what the law says. Now, it clearly says campaigns start 90 days, and it ends a day before. Now we're done with the 90 days, so that's really should really be out of our realm of discussion right now. The only thing we're not yet at is the 24 hours. So in my thinking, campaigns should go on until 24 hours and cease 24 hours before the polls. You know, 24 hours before polls open, campaigns should cease. And now, here's another reason that I think that the intent of the law should really be stuck to. Now, when we're talking about the two main political parties, like APC and PDP, they can afford to not campaign for 2 weeks, but that's not so. Remember, we have 70 other parties. We have 70 parties in total. So which means 68 of them.
We have more than 70.
Oh, really? Yeah. Which means the rest, the bulk of the political parties are disadvantaged if we had to go outside of what the law really intends, you know? And they're disadvantaged in that if they're off air for a whole week, some of them will not even remember the names of their presidential candidates. You know, for APC and PDP, like I said, that's fine. You know, we know who they are. But to have these other parties just, you know, not do anything for a whole week, I think that's really unfair, actually, you know, speaking honestly. I think political campaigns should go on, you know, as soon as the 90 days had elapsed and then there's an extension, the 24 hours prohibition should kick in.
Okay.
You know.
Could it be that the Electoral Act, when it was being fashioned out, there was no contemplation of a postponement by the electoral umpire?
I think there was. Because
is it covered anywhere in the law?
The INEC chairman derives his power to postpone an election from the same Electoral Act.
Okay. I thought side by side it would have been a case of, okay, in case the election is postponed, we extend the campaigns. The election has been postponed, and we're talking about seizure of campaigns 24 hours before election. But elections have been postponed by 1 week. So that is the space. And that's why I say it's a fundamental issue.
That's why I say it seems to me more as if that is if we were to go by the thinking, the whole thoughts that elections or that campaigns have ended by the expiration of 90 days, if we were to go by that thinking, it those tells us that the law itself is not sufficient and does not adequately cater for realities or that have shown or reared their head as we have it now. Because if we are to go by that thinking, like Mrs. Susan Henshaw said, what now happens to parties that they need to continue to rehash their philosophies, rehash their campaigns and manifestos up till the last minute? And let's say the last minute is the 24 hour before the polls. So you have more or less given or withdrawn from people the right to be voted for.
Absolutely.
That is ultimately what it is. But like I said and I was saying earlier, it still doesn't. I think to read strictly the lines in the provisions of the law is that political parties commence their public campaigns, keyword public campaigns, and keyword again political parties 90 days before the polling day. Let's say that is cast in stone. Imagine. It does not take away the permission of or the right of others, independent groups, supporters of candidates, individuals, like I said, persons of interest, to go out there and say, I believe in this candidate and I want this candidate to come to be voted in, come whenever the date is announced. Because remember that even before the 90 days commenced, individuals were campaigning. Individuals were already saying, I want this person, I support this person, I want to vote this person. This person has my vote. Okay. That conversation will continue up until the last minute. Public campaigns by political parties on official grounds and by the thinking of that 90 days before the polling day should actually cease.
Okay, let's move on now. You know, we have had, this is not the first time an election will be postponed. In 2011, we had one that had commenced. I remember in one of the states, a particular ward had concluded, they had counted at that ward level when the INEC chairman, then Professor Jega, did a national broadcast and postponed the election. 2015, it has not commenced, it was postponed.
Right.
And this was just countdown to it, it was postponed. So, but this particular one appears to have generated so much reactions. Why should it be so?
Now, the distinction is that at that time, the president told us that he got, for security reasons, you know, that was at the height of the Boko Haram, you know, and now that I look back, you know, because at the time, I was one of those that was saying, you know, this man had no right to do, you know, what he did. But now that I look back and see that perhaps, you know, people in places like Borno or more vulnerable boundary villages, you know, may have been too afraid to come out and vote. You know, they said exactly not, you know, but then we know the reality of the situation is that if somebody had a gunshot, they would have run away, you know. Well, anyway, having said that, elections were postponed for 6 weeks. The president and the security, you know, were the reasons why. Now, let's come to 2019. INEC. The reason INEC has given up for the postponement of the elections for an additional week is because they really could not get the job done. I'm here calling it as it is, you know. INEC couldn't get the job done, and here's why I'm very concerned about it. I'm very concerned because maybe in 4 years, INEC doesn't really have to pull its, you know, its weight, because after all, we have the option of moving this thing forward. You know, this is the one time, and that's why, you know, when you brought up the issue of there being a whole lot of, you know, hullabaloo about this one. The reason is because INEC had everything it needed. It had the 16 billion naira it asked for was given it, not a penny short. INEC had knowledge of everything it has told us, prior knowledge, you know. In legal terms, we always say everything excuse INEC has given us for moving the elections were reasonably foreseeable. You know, I think the main reasons are the timing.
Okay.
Secondly, the fact that INEC has come out and said they had logistical issues. And even though they've done all that explaining, people like me are not impressed by the excuses, you know. And I'm sure there are lots of people like me. That's why everybody shouts, you know, there's a lot of loud shouting. INEC has given us logistical reasons. But when you think about it, none of the reasons they've given us could not have been foreseen and prepared for. Even the ones as bad as, let's say, buildings being burnt down with their equipment and so on. You know, if you ask me, if people were really thinking ahead and understand this country well, none of our voting materials, especially sensitive voting materials, should be outside of fireproof rooms. You know, they should have put that in the budget and they should have made provisions for it. So that where you have your storing equipment, sensitive equipment, equipment and sensitive materials should be in fireproof rooms, you know. I'm not sure if anybody wasn't thinking, and then they've talked about transportation and, you know, delays and sabotage, all of which I am not an INEC person. But if somebody had come to me and said, what can we do to make sure this process is smooth within this time frame? I probably would have done a better job. I know people are going to say, oh, there goes Susan Henshaw. But that's true. You know, you have to agree that any time a problem is, is foreseeable, provision should be made for it. Now, I raised this issue the other day. I said, if, for example, INEC came to us and said, what happened we absolutely had no control of. It was an act of God. You know, there was flood, you know, there was an earthquake, then that would be a whole different thing. But don't tell me that, that things got burnt, you had to come up with it.
Well, part of it they said was weather. The aircraft could not land.
The aircraft could not land in certain places.
Yes.
Now, they've told us that the reason they were late in announcing the postponement, you know, at 2 a.m., 2:30 in the morning, was because they thought they could make it. Now, when I juxtapose that to how that, because we really were in a situation room, you know, monitoring what was going on, where materials were arriving and, you know, which materials had arrived and gone to the local governments, which had arrived the states and had not yet been distributed to the local government. And this was about almost midnight. I knew as of earlier than midnight that probability of being able to make it was very slim. I'm not sure if INEC realized that at 2:30. Pardon me, you know, but they dropped the ball. And, you know, they dropped the ball.
This has happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of factors have been considered. It's painful. They have apologized. The two major political parties, despite the other ones, APC, PDP, they are throwing tantrums here and there, disagreeing and agreeing. But let's move on.
Right.
A new date has been fixed, and the Independent National Electoral Commission has given timelines of Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and indeed Saturday, meaning it remains sacrosanct, no more shifting, all being equal. Toby, what attitude should the electorate be putting up now? Should it be an attitude of being discouraged, or it should propel the electorate to even think towards going to really exercise that power they have with their PVCs?
I think first and foremost, the president has asked Nigerians not to be deterred. Right. And that is fundamental. Don't be deterred. Give INEC the ultimate support it deserves. If INEC fails, the country fails. Whether we are angry, we're disappointed, we're discouraged. But ultimately, the failure of INEC is the failure of the country. The APC national chairman said, this is a shame on the country, and rightly so, because people are looking at is it that the country cannot organize elections by itself. Is it that, like Mrs. Henschel said, was it that these events were not foreseeable by any logistics contemplation? You would have been able to say this is likely going to happen. Weather forecasting systems are available. Understanding mapping of violence and areas of potential violence and areas of potential irregularities and even damage to products. It's done. These things are done. So these failures are not excusable, to be honest. But regardless of that, Nigerians cannot now say throw away the baby with the bathwater. INEC is Nigerians, and we must ultimately give support to INEC. But while giving support to INEC, because INEC belongs to us, we must ask fundamental questions to INEC. One, you have given a list of all the problems you encountered that led to this postponement. Drop another list and tick when you fixed all of that before Wednesday at least. And communicate with Nigerians. We don't want to be spoken to after you have spoken to foreign observers. We want to be talked to. It's a relationship between people who are ultimately supposed to serve us. Give us every day an update of what you have done. You've already made comments and told us that you are going to be relocating the card readers, reconfiguring the card readers and what have you. Let us know how far you've gone with that. How many card readers have been reconfigured? If you deployed 119 or maybe 200 or 400,000 card readers, how many card readers have returned back to base? How many card readers have been reconfigured? Let Nigerians know. Nigerians deserve to understand and know that this system is not compromised by this. See, this postponement in itself has already cast a question mark to the credibility of the elections in itself. Because sensitive materials and non-sensitive materials have already arrived some local governments already. And now you're returning them back to the CBN, where they are usually safe kept. There must be a tracking of every sensitive material that left base to the wards or local governments.
INEC had said that there will even be an audit.
You see,
that
is what I'm saying. Beautiful, do an audit, but keep Nigerians posted.
Okay.
Don't just let things happen and then you come and tell us maybe another day that this has happened. Because you see, you just said 23rd is sacrosanct. To be honest, I at this point in time, I would want to take that with a pinch of salt until INEC can show its workings and say, indeed, that this 23rd is sacrosanct because we have done this, we have mapped out potential areas of issues.
So let me hold it. He says he will take it with a pinch of salt. Now, I like using this word. If you fall, it's an accident.
Yeah.
But if you remain fallen thereafter, it becomes a problem.
Right.
So what if, say by Thursday, an appeal comes from INEC? Sorry, we are shifting the goalpost again. What happens?
Well, here's the thing.
It's a possibility.
It's possible. Everything is possible at this point. I was just thinking as, Attorney Wojala was talking, when he said, check all the, excuses you've given us, check them and make sure that, everything's fine now. And then I was just thinking this thought. In Akwa Ibom State, for example, some place called Obod Akara, something, yeah. INEC materials were burnt. Weren't those INEC materials, 3 or 4 vans carrying sensitive material were set ablaze? Why were they without security? Why were they? So when INEC tries to give us the impression that now within this 1 week we're going to cross our T's and dot our I's, like he said, everybody's taking it with a pinch of salt. As a matter of fact, my thinking would have been, instead of trying to do 1 week, since they already moved it and the hammer has already been done, they might as well have given themselves enough time. Now they're giving us the impression that, yeah, we did it to this extent, but when you think about it, all the materials that had gone out to states and local government need to come back. Isn't that so?
Absolutely.
They need to come back.
And be reconfigured.
And be reconfigured, you know? And here's another thing that bothers me. Those of us on the social media are seeing all kinds of things, and for the most part, you know, truth and fabrications and mistruths and half-truths are always flowing on the social media. Where we've seen on some platforms people showing photos of ballot papers, especially coming out of Rivers State and saying, oh, APC is not on the ballot paper in Rivers. You know, on the face of it, it tells you that somebody opened sensitive materials in Rivers. Somebody had access and opened up, you know, a box of ballot papers in England.
No.
I mean, in PH,
yes.
or Rivers.
Yeah.
In order to be able to show us that one. There are other things, everything's flowing around, and there are other things that have already been thumb printed and stamped, and INEC has come out and say, oh, that's not our original stamp. Now here's the thing, INEC cannot convince us that on the day of the election when votes are being counted, that they're going to meticulously be checking, this one is real, a real stamp, this one is not, you know, this one is a real stamp, this one. They cannot give us that guarantee. They really cannot guarantee us that fake or false, thumb-printed, you know, ballot papers
Now,
will not get into the street.
That's why I asked the question which Toby could not knock off. Maybe
Yeah.
he was distracted.
Yeah.
Kind of. Let me go there now.
Okay.
What attitude should the electorate be exhibiting now ahead of 23rd? Because 23rd is the date now.
Yeah.
You see, that attitude.
We all looked up to 16th.
That
Now
attitude.
we all look up to 23rd.
You see,
Yeah.
Omini, I'm not going to play politics or be a nice guy and play the ostrich literally. The truth is that Nigerians are discouraged.
Yes.
The truth is that Nigerians do not have already.
Or should that be the right spirit?
No, that is not the right spirit. But you see, I have to get to a point. Nigerians are already reluctant, and it's a natural feeling. You cannot take it away. We're human beings. We're already seeing, INEC is listing out all of this. We're seeing on social media that people already had access to all of these sensitive materials. That already is putting in seeds of reluctance to go and vote already. People are already distrusting the system. And the only way that can happen, the president came out today and said, or yesterday said, Nigerians come out and vote. Other political parties are encouraging their members come out and vote. That is well done, great. But you see, the institution that can encourage Nigerians and can give us the guarantee that indeed that we coming out to vote will not be a waste of time, or it will not be about people traveling 6,000 miles or traveling thousands of kilometers to come down to their polling units to be told that the elections have been cancelled and to return back to work and spending money. That already, people are already having a mindset. I mean, I have to be very honest with you. Only INEC can tell Nigerians, and how do they do that? By being more transparent, being more open about every single issue that they have raised that caused the postponement, and saying, we have solved this, we have solved this, we have solved this, we have solved this. Indeed, votings would happen on the 23rd, and there the invigoration of the Nigerian spirits to go and vote would happen.
Okay.
But as at right now, Nigerians can only be encouraged. Nigerians should, however, just be reminded that this is democracy, and ultimately 4 years, the cycle of 4 years, what we call the quadrennial system, is not just for people to come out and or people to be compelled to come out and vote, but it's a period for people to determine the governance of their country, for people to determine the people who manage the government of their country, for people to determine the ideologies that manages their country. And so it is necessary for them to participate in the electoral process. No matter how bad the systems, or no matter how discouraging the systems are, Nigerians must remain determined. But On the other hand of the divide is INEC, that must hold Nigerians arm in arm to help us get to that point. That is why INEC is not just empowered to hold elections, but INEC is also given the mandate for voter education. And inherent in that mandate is also the duty to encourage voters and be open and be transparent about the conduct of its processes.
As much as time could allow that day, the INEC chairman tried as much as possible to convince Nigerians that 23rd is
cast in stone.
Yeah, cast in stone. Well, yeah, let's use that word.
Yeah.
But shifting elections and rejigging the entire process, is it enough to lose confidence in INEC?
No, confidence in INEC has already been
He has
lost.
sustained the fact that if there is one institution in Nigeria where transparency and objectivity, fairness has played out, is INEC. He said so.
Here's the thing, you know, like what Jola said, Nigerians have already lost confidence in INEC. INEC has dropped the ball. INEC has not given us satisfactory explanation as to why that happened. Could it have done a better job? Absolutely yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Planes couldn't land, should have known to look for planes that can land with short, if you had to hire planes that land vertically, do the damn thing that way, you know? So all of those aside, Nigerians are disappointed and have really, INEC's credibility really is in the dust right now. And here's what INEC is offering us, word of mouth.
Okay.
Chairman is telling us, yes, we can do it. But we want to see.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to see. I hope people go out and vote.
I believe all I will say to Susan Henshaw,
Yeah.
attorney and non-profit professional, and Johannes Toby Wojola, lawyer, dispute resolution specialist, is it's been done, and the pains have been felt, the hope not lost.
Absolutely.
23rd February is what every Nigerian look up to, every political actor look up to, all the electoral observation teams are looking up to, and we believe if this happens, INEC image somehow would have been redeemed. Thank you so much for being on
I
Insight.
appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Up next on Insight is the media review segment. Stay with us.
This is the media review segment of Insight. Now, in the last couple of days, if you check Google or social media, the most talked about or browsed will be INEC, postponement of Nigeria's election. Well, of course, we all know the reason why. And INEC has been preparing, and they've been trying to have many explanations. Foreign observers have had their say. Electorate who went out early in the morning, not knowing that the election has been postponed, have all been complaining, people traveling, so many being talked about. But how many people are talking about the journalists, the reporters, those in the field, those who have been sent out to cover this election? This and others will be our focus on the media review segment for today. And I have the head of reportorial of the NTA News Directorate, Muhammad Ali, with us here in the studios. Muhammad Ali, welcome.
Thank you very much,
again, for coming around.
Thank you.
Okay, I've said the morning of the supposed election took many people by surprise, with many people talking, complaining, parties faulting each other. Now, for the journalists, I believe you have assigned your reporters to have gone out on the field. What was the whole picture for you that day? When did you hear about this? How did you get your reporters back into the studio? What were all the arrangements you've made beforehand?
Well, we made arrangement actually, and we've deployed our reporters where they will cover. Everybody was ready, but you know, we are also privy to the knowledge that the election was going to be postponed earlier. Because what I mean is because we were there waiting for the crucial meeting by INEC, and I was there personally when the INEC chairman addressed the media, telling us that it was no longer feasible to conduct the election.
What time was this?
It was around 2:36, something like that. We were at the INEC headquarters since around after 12 and until around that time when he we were waiting. A lot of journalists, everybody was there. Some were streaming live. We also went there with our live stream box and our direct link to make sure that we stream it live to people, whatever INEC was coming up with. You know, there was this rumor going on. It was getting stronger that INEC was going to. Of course, our reporters across the country were getting back to me, and I told them we are waiting for the official confirmation. Then when it came, we informed everybody that the election has been postponed until next Saturday. But then we have a work to do. Even postponing the election is a bigger news than the election itself. So my reporters have to be on the field. We have,
they have to remain on the field.
Yes, they have to get the people's reaction, to look at the situation. I know there are a lot of other issues, so it did not change anything. The only thing is that we have to report the election. Now we are acting the people's reaction to what has happened to the election.
Okay, just before we go to find out your findings on the reporters on the field, tell us about when did you deploy your reporters to go out on location to start coverage and maybe pre-election analysis? At what point did you send out your reporters to go out?
Every event, you have the pre-event, you have the event itself, and then the post-event. We've trained our reporters across the country. While we are deploying new technology that we have never used before, we are going to try it on the election. We had reporters in each of the 109 senatorial districts across Nigeria. We have deployed our reporters to all the senatorial districts, and we are going to have reports live, either visually or through the phone. So we are all getting ready. Some we are already there even before the morning of the election, because some of the places are hard to reach. But then many of the reporters we are to leave in the morning, early in the morning, and then go to their places of assignment, of course, covering as they move ahead before they return. So when it came, the news came, everybody, maybe we have to mellow down our personnel deployment and other equipment, because we only need their reactions now, not covering of the election itself. So some of our plans have to change. But then it was very important to still have the reporters on the ground in those places so that we can get the reactions of the people. Okay,
tell us about some of the reactions you got. Of course, many people traveled, some people, I don't know, tell some of the reactions.
Well, we saw the report, many people were disappointed. That is the truth. Many people were disappointed because they have prepared their minds to vote and everything. But one thing was very clear. We did not see people from the reports we get that said they are not going to vote. Rather, it made the people more determined, more committed to see that they vote
for the 23rd.
Yes. Yeah, many people are saying it has not changed anything. It has not dampened their spirit, and it has not in any way made them to be
less
negative.
patriotic.
Okay, yes. In short, it is if something else, I think the election has shown to me that Nigerians are patriotic people. They want to participate in this civic responsibility. They want to contribute to the development and Nigeria's democracy, because this is their own part and they want to play it irrespective of the development. Of course, from our interaction with people, from the reports from my reporters across the country, the people know that Nigeria is a developing country. We have these challenges that we have to contend with. So our ability to be patient and then to see that we contribute to development of democracy has come out very clearly, and almost everybody is willing to wait for 1 week, so that, because the general consensus from our interaction with people is that instead of us starting and then having issues, it's rather that it is being postponed so that we can have free, fair, and credible election. Many people are saying if the postponement is going to improve the process, so be it.
I guess besides, after the first day or two of complaining, I think everybody had adjusted to the fact that we needed something freer, fairer, so the postponement might be. Especially
when INEC came up the next day to tell us all the reasons.
All the reasons.
Yeah,
so I guess many people got relaxed a little and understood that it wasn't really a bad idea after all. 109 senatorial districts, you are deploying your staff around this. Now, it is not a small number. How are you going to manage resources content to be sure that everything is up to par across board?
NTA is everywhere. Every state has NTA. We have community stations in every state,
and everybody's broadcasting live.
We have staff there. We have it's going to be controlled from here, and we have the zonal centers that are live. We've trained our reporters, like I said, and we are deploying some equipment. We are trying some new technologies, and then we are also using. Out of this, we are going to get live report from each of the 109 senatorial districts. That
live
is
report, that's
yes,
for sure.
Live report.
You're not going to tell us exactly how, but you sure we're going to.
Yes, it's a strategy that I'm not going to reveal, but we are going to bring reports from each of the 109 senatorial districts across Nigeria. Remember, we are the largest television network.
Yes.
We have many stations everywhere. We have every state. We have. Station with reporters, with management, and everything. So we have a command and control at every level, and we are deploying these to make sure that we give Nigerians the best election coverage ever. We will cover everywhere.
Tell us, what are you looking out for when you send your men out on the field? What are you expecting of them? Well,
we have a policy, we have a philosophy. We want quality. We want accuracy. That is the most important thing, NTA. We want accuracy, and we want our reporters to give us as it is. We don't engage in sensationalism or other things like that. We don't get involved in rumor. We don't get involved in inciting conflicts. What we do is we report it the way it is. Each of our reporters in each of the 109 senatorial districts know what to do. They have been trained and retrained. They have been given the guidelines, and we have test run for more than 3 months. We test running. If you can observe on our nationwide platform, you see reporters sending report as lives and what have you. These are some of the things. If we are unable to get this report live, then the delay is not going to be more than 10 minutes, because of course we have one screen that we are serving. If we have 2 or 3 reporters reported at the same time, we may record some. We may record them, so that as soon as we are over with the next person, we take on the next person, or we play the other person's report. But the difference is actually not going to be more than 10 minutes, maximum 15 minutes.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that you are very ready to broadcast real live in the traditional media. But you also agreed today that people live on the social media. People live online. So do you have plans for like iReports, situation room, hotlines, and all that?
NTA is online. We have NTA online. We have the NTA News Now. That is our Twitter handle is at NTA News Now. Okay. We have NTA Network News on Facebook. Okay. We have our YouTube channel that we stream live, and then we have our Instagram. We are on these 4 major platforms, and I'm telling you, these reports that we will be getting on the traditional media will be running simultaneously on our YouTube channel, which is NTA/live. So we are very, very active on the social media platform, on the online. You can get us on the go, and these are the arrangements we've made. This live, because what we'll be transmitting on the terrestrial or the traditional media is being run stream live on the YouTube channel. So all these reports will be seen live. Besides our online, like on the Twitter handle, on the Facebook, we have this individual report that we upload immediately. Okay. So people can get to know and follow us on social media. We're everywhere, every Nigerian, wherever he is, NTA is ready for him. Okay,
I agree, but people are asking, many people are ready to be your stringers, so to say, with their mobile phone. They want to send some quick information or pictures that they have. Is NTA having plans for that, for eyewitness report?
Yeah, well, citizen journalism. We encourage citizen journalism, but NTA, like you know, we always go for accuracy. Our reporters are trained. We are in every state, in every local government. We should have a representative there. Or let me say we do have, because even we have community stations. So we are not discouraging people from sending, but it has to pass through some certain gatekeeping. You know, we have to make sure, and whatever that information is coming, we know we have a correspondent that should be close by to confirm. If it is confirmed and we get it's authentic, of course, we are going to use it and then credit the person that sends it to NTA. But if we don't authenticate the source or the credibility of that story, I'm sorry, we are not going to use it, because NTA has been known over the years for being very accurate. We are the clearing house and we intend to maintain that position. If you hear it on NTA, then it must be the truth.
Yeah, really, if we hear it on NTA, it ought to be authentic, so you need to pass through this gatekeeping, which is quite understandable. Now, let's talk about security of the men and resources you are sending out. Has that been taken care of? Of course, we know there are some some crisis-prone areas, and of course your men will be there. How are you going to manage that?
Well, we're adopting the safety-first approach, and we've been covering elections for a very long time. We are in this business before any other person in Nigeria, and we know how to go about it. Of course, like I said, we are adopting the safety-first approach, and there are security personnel that we work with. Remember, if a place is very dangerous, we move with the security agents, because everywhere there are security agents. So if the place is a crisis point, is a hotspot, then of course our reporters will now join the security operatives that will be going to that particular place, so that they will have the safety to do their work, and they will do it in such a way that it does not in any way conflict with what the standard norm of our journalism is.
All right, besides looking at the politics, the voting patterns and all that stuff, what else are your men expected to look out for outside when they go out to vote, like economy? For instance, we understand that some petty traders during this on Saturday had made whole bowls of kunu and granola, prepared it just to sell, and no, the business is all. So what else are your reporters going to be looking at areas like that? Well,
normally, if you are familiar with the way NTA, we do special reports. And these are what we are talking about, human angle stories. You know, people selling the economic aspect. We even look at, there are even some issues that we have to look out for. For instance, this is the first time Nigeria will be using the braille for the blind. We'll look out for how is it working. You know, in the past, a blind person just comes, he doesn't have secrecy. Somebody has to tell him if he wants to vote for Mohammed, and then the person guiding him decide to vote for Cecil. He will take his thumb and put it on Cecil instead of Mohammed. But now he has the braille. He can feel to know this is Mohammed that he wants to vote for, or he wants to vote for Cecil. So we are going to look out for that. We are going to look out for the human angle stories, the elderly, the women participation, the physically challenged, people engaged in economic activities, compliance with the rules and regulations of INEC, the issue of not going with phones to the polling day. How did the people comply? How is this thing being enforced? We are journalists. We are not just going to close our eyes to other stories around the election. No, we are going to bring all this out, and our reporters are trained reporters. They are journalists, so they know what to do, and we've even again sensitized them and asked them to do such things. So it's not only going to be reporting election, we are going to look at other things surrounding the election, from the economy, the social aspect of it, and above all the political aspect, which is why everybody is there to vote.
Mohammed Ali, you've spoken so well, and it makes me actually believe you that the NTA is on top of things and will cover holistically the elections as we come in 23rd and of course on the 9th of March. I want to thank you very much, Mohammed Ali, head reportorial of the NTA News Directorate, for coming to the studio and educating us clearly on how prepared the NTA is in the forthcoming elections. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm assuring you that if you tune into NTA, you will never tune out.
All right, if you tune into NTA, you sure will be stuck there. All right, the program is Media Review on Insight. In a short while, we're back on with Omini for the concluding part of this program.
Well, it's time to go. Before we go, there's always a price for everything. There's a price for leadership. There's even a price for you to be an electorate. We know it is painful, but it is a civic responsibility. The date has been fixed. Just sacrifice as much as you can, financial, logistic, material, to go back and vote. It is a civic responsibility. Cecil?
Yeah, for me, if you want a better Nigeria, please, it is your duty to make sure you drop your ballot in the ballot box. And also, if you are going to be a social media journalist updating information, make sure it is true, fair and not fake.
Beautiful. An analyst said, if you don't vote, you have taken a decision. If you vote, you have also taken a decision. On behalf of all of us, that's about that on the program today. Bye-bye.